Welcome to the GT3 Team challenge on the World Sim Series platform, and welcome to the Ardennes Forest and Spa-Francorchamps. We're here once again on Assetto Corsa Competizione, once again on World Sim Series on this wonderful track. The drivers love it, the fans love it, and it always creates incredible racing action. You're seeing beautiful shots of the track that was pre-recorded earlier, because once we head into the live pictures, this place is soaked, as Spa so often is, and I'm sure the drivers will have one hell of a challenge on their hands. Quick look at the track map and what we've got in front of you for this evening. One of the longest tracks in the world, just a tiny bit over 7 kilometers long, the legendary Eau Rouge and Radion section. Lecombe at the end of the long straight. Pool on the double left is incredibly fast, even in the wet, and they'll come through Stavelot, then Blanchimont, and then the bus stop chicane to end the lap of this legendary place. And I'm sure many of the motorsport fans know the names of the turns already. This is what I was talking about. The track conditions are dreadful at the moment. This is currently the man sitting in second place in qualifying. Simonas Katkus leads the session with a 28-0, but it's all going to depend on how the track evolves. Obviously in the Porsche, so a car that's a bit more suited to the wet weather. And as always, I'm joined by Lorinas.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the penultimate qualifying session of the GT3 Team Challenge Championship, live from the soaked wet Spa-Francorchamps circuit that Gustav Grimberg has introduced us so nicely. A little bit more than 7 kilometers long, 20 corners in total. This is one of the more difficult circuits on the calendar, though we had one difficult race 2 weeks ago, but this one, well, you have to nail it to go fast around Spa, and everyone knows Spa, but it's still pretty difficult to be fast here, especially in conditions like these when it's soaking wet. Katku's doing currently the best job of the drivers. Tonila second, Simonas Urbanov with a flying lap, 3/10 down. So 4.5 minutes of the session still on the clock, so there is still time for the drivers to change the timetable in the standings to get prepared for the race start. Not sure if we'll have a wet race this afternoon. Toras Tonila takes the provisional pole position back. to the name of himself, 2 minutes 26.9. Maybe the track conditions are getting a little bit better at this moment.
Yeah, it looks like it. That's a massive improvement. Obviously, confidence going up as you complete the session, but other cars improving as well. Matas Mickiewicz goes up into third, and he's going to have one more attempt at the end of this one because he's coming out of the pits right now. This is Simonas Katko's coming to the end of his lap. He's getting stuck in a little bit of traffic. Once he crosses the line, he'll have 2 more attempts. If he's fueled enough, obviously. Katko's to keep second and improves. Purple in the final sector for him, but now has to get past some slower moving traffic.
Simonas Urbonas standing still, 3 minutes 20 seconds till the end of this session. He's currently 5th. He has time to get out on the racetrack. Looks like he's doing some adjustments to the setup of his car. He has to be a little bit more faster with that because the time is running out. He's still safe with roughly 20 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds to stand in the pit lane, and he's still doing that. That's risky, but he'll be the last car on the track if he'll be able to get out there to try and put in a faster lap time. Still standing. That's a little bit strange with Simonas Urbonas, our championship leader. Well, this is a team championship, and the team that Simonas Urbonas is representing is currently well ahead of all the other drivers. Shaun Clarke Racing 73 points, but he's being chased down by Beaver Grease Racing with 60 points on the table. Well, a little bit of chit-chat. We will have a new introduction in this race from our live stewards with some more...
Good evening, everyone. Race control assistant is ready for work.
Yep, that is what we were introducing. That's a good evening for everyone from our race control. This is the place where you will get all the notifications about the penalties of the drivers that they might receive during the race. So that's a new interesting feature we eagerly wait for to see how that works out in the race of this evening. Toros Tunila sliding around Eau Rouge and Rodillon corners. He's currently in the provisional pole position and just set the fastest lap time. 2 minutes 26.0. Katko's second. Urbonas out on the track. Will he make it till the checker flag will drop to start his fast lap? He's tight,
he's
but
in prime position here. He's going to be one of the last cars to cross the line.
Katko's qualifying done. Kristolaitis goes second fastest. Also,
because the rain has stopped,
yeah.
so the track just keeps improving. That's interesting to go back to the pits. Maybe not enough fuel in their cars, because even if your tires are getting worn, you're still going to want to stay out on track because the track's improving. I think Toros Tunil will not have another attempt at the end of this one, but clearly you can see the track getting drier.
And he's improving. Toros Tunil improving by 7/10. The biggest question is, will that be enough? And a lot of drivers that are out there on the circuit are improving, including Dainius Butvila and Matas Mickiewicz. Matas Mickiewicz is going by 1 second faster than his fastest lap time, so that's definitely proof that the track is improving. Did Simonas Urbonas have the best weather calculations? He was adjusting the setup of his car when he got back to the pit lane, so it looks like he took a good look at the forecast. Toros Tunila 6/10 faster than his fastest lap time. Kristolaitis and Katko still in the pit lane. Butvila and Mickiewicz out there on the racetrack improving. Tunila will be the first of the remaining drivers on the circuit to cross the line. He should go even faster with a lap time of 2 minutes 25.3, 0.5 actually. So Dainius Butvila and Matas Mickiewicz. Matas Mickiewicz will be the first of the 2 drivers that are currently in big improvements. That's not going to be enough to take that pole position, but Matas Mickiewicz should gain himself a couple of places. He should go up to P2 for the standing moment. Yep, Mickiewicz goes
Ooh,
P2.
Tight, actually. Not by a huge margin, but does go P2. This is Daniel Woodville. Looks like he's being held up by a Ferrari ahead. Klopkenas up to 4th. It's a big improvement. Woodville now up to 4th, and that's tight. So actually, Gedimnas is doing a great job setting that lap quite early, and this is Simonas Urbonas.
Yeah, so Butvila definitely was improving a little bit more, and he was aiming for P2, but that car that was in front of him infringed his lap time a little bit. What about Simonas Urbonas? 1.3 seconds faster than his fastest lap time. That's far from enough to take that pole position, sliding on the exit, getting early on the power. With the lap time that he's currently looking at, he's looking into 2nd or 3rd or even 4th position. That's tight behind Toros Tunila, but what a lap time of our Dream to Drive driver this evening. That's definitely not going to be a pole position, but Simonas Urbonas improving quite dramatically on the final sector. Now he's actually looking at pole. Where did that time come from? It looks like Simonas Urbonas is going to take the pole position, so he's 2nd with only 1/10
just a
down.
10 off. Wow, that's close. So he did get that great track position at the end. Clearly the track improving a lot towards the end of the session, because big improvements coming from the top, and I think Matas Mickiewicz and Gedimnas will be very much disappointed that they did not continue their qualifying effort, because it wasn't massive improvements towards the end of this session.
Alright, we have some wind conditions. Watch out for curbs and exit, and remember to brake early.
Would be nice to get on the racetrack. Somehow I'm not allowed to do that. There we go. This is the best moment to take a look at the at the current standings at the starting grid. That's what I wanted to say, and I think this is the moment where we can do that. Yep. So Toros Tunila taking pole position. Simonas Urbonas will start the race from P2. Matas Mickiewicz 3rd on the grid with his McLaren. Gediminas Krištolaitis, another McLaren 4th. Dainius Butvila took 5th place with his BMW. Dave Sparktronics, the famous Ferrari, starting 6th. Audrius Klopkenas, another Ferrari, from P7. P8, Mantas Samulonis, beautiful McLaren 720S with Stevenas Katkus, only P9. Remember, he was 2nd. Domantas Kniva, 10th. Mary Balash, 11th. Povilas Gutauskas will start the race from P12. Justinas L, 13th. Jan Brewery will start the race from P20. Miguel Silverio, 15th. Alex Leaf, only P16. I think he's gonna improve during the race. Fernando Di Lillo, 17th position. Maxim Jordi, P18th. Justinas Gedzevičius from P19th. Going further down the grid, it's Javier Legid, 20th with the Mercedes. Ainis Klimavičius, 21st. Bram Windels, 22nd. And Motiejus Brazaitis, 23rd on the grid. So this was your grid, and this is your grid for the penultimate round of the GT3 Team Challenge Championship on the World Sim Series platform. And we had some issues with nationalities, but that's already in the past because the drivers are on the soaking wet track located in Belgium, Spa-Francorchamps. It's gonna be a hard one for the drivers, so our race control is getting ready for the next hot race, 1 hour long, 1 mandatory pit stop. The drivers cannot go into the pit lane earlier than the 20th minute will be shown on the clocks of the race, because you cannot go longer as 40 minutes of your stint time. So I think it's gonna be a hot one, even though it's soaking wet. The driver's still trying to warm up the tires as they go around the circuit for their warm-up lap.
We'll see how they do. Interesting that Toras Tunila looks to be really working the tires. And Simonas Urbanas looks to be a lot more calm behind him.
Yep.
This is Matas Mickiewicz on your screens, the two McLarens in 3rd and 4th.
So the main battle in the championship currently is between Shaun Clarke Racing with Simonas Urbanas and Beaver Grease Racing with Gediminas Krištolaitis. So Urbanas currently 2nd, Krištolaitis 4th. Dream to Drive with Toras Tunila are 3rd in the championship standings, but they have only 30 points on the list with 73 points for Simonas Urbanas. So Simonas Urbanas definitely should be looking for a much calmer race than he had 2 weeks ago. Remember the chaos we had at Kyalami with a lot of crashes and accidents and a lot of overtakings happening on the circuit. Wonder how this one's
again picking that unique car in the Nissan. We don't really see it that often. I think maybe he enjoys it, and that's why we see him pick it. Aston Martin, same story. We don't often see it. We've seen it run by Dream to Drive in the Spa 12 hours. That was last year on the World Sim Series, so quite unique cars at the very front, and then it's the standard McLarens, BMWs, Audis, and Porsches looking all the way down behind them. It will be interesting to see what Stevenas Katkos can do from 9th in the Porsche. Porsche historically very strong on the wet. Obviously rear engine, so a lot of grip on the rear of the car. That means good traction, which is crucial here in the wet. As we come up to the line, I believe we'll get the green as we go down the hill. We won't be getting it right now.
Well, the start should happen just before the Eau Rouge corner, but we always get caught up by surprise with Gustas Grimbergas in a lot of championships. So, yeah, but it looks like this time we will not get caught by surprise. The start will happen after that first corner. Well, it is first corner usually, but with the GT3 cars, the drivers start running down the straight after La Source corner.
But the finish is actually at the normal F1 timing line, and the timing line is at normal line. Okay, so getting ready to go green. The run-up Eau Rouge will be very interesting, especially in the wet. Toras Tunila on pole, Simonas Urbanas in 2nd, Aston Martin versus Nissan on the front row, and then you've got two McLarens breathing down their necks, and we're off. Toras Tunila looks to have gotten a decent start, and Simonas Urbanas as well. They're going to come side by side up the hill. They continue to be side by side, almost touch.
Urbanas got the position.
They're still side by side, not.
Yeah, he ran a little bit wide. It was close, it was close. Yep, I thought Simonas Urbanas will get that position. He didn't, but he's still side by side into the Lecombs corners. In the background, Mickiewicz and Krištolaitis battling. And, well, Urbanas and Krištolaitis, both of them know that they have to be a little bit more careful. And look at Matas Mickiewicz inside into the exit of Lecombs section down to Bruxelles. Simonas Urbanas, he's late on the brakes, a little bit wide, leaving the door open on the exit. Still, he's really able to hold it all together and stay in front of Matas Mickiewicz. But all this fighting between the drivers gave Toras Tunila quite a lot of breathing room, and he's now down further into the distance, leading this race, and he'll be looking for a win in these dreadful rainy conditions.
Yep, this is Domantas Kniva in 6th. He's trying to catch up to Samulonis ahead. He's got Kutkus right behind him. We saw Kutkus do well in the qualifying session, but then kept dropping time as the track improved and he wasn't out on track. I saw a weather forecast just a moment ago, and it was predicted to stop raining at some point and then maybe restart again. So we'll see how the drivers cope with that. If that does indeed happen, we've obviously got a mandatory pit stop that you've got to do anywhere between the 20 and the 40-minute range in the race, but you can choose at which point to do it. So drivers will probably be pushing it to the very, very edge because a tire change is mandatory in that. So they'll be pushing it to the very, very end to see if they can maybe fit a set of slicks on for the end if that is required.
But that's good thinking, you know, that gives you a little bit of strategic room to try.
Warning. Car number 5. Reason, bumping car 11.
Our race control lady is giving us information nicely. So car number 5, only a warning for bumping another driver. So that's why I held my talking for a little bit. But yeah, the strategic possibilities for the drivers are open at this stage. So basically what you would like to do is to stay out for as long as possible to try and wait for the track to dry and maybe then go for some risky moves with the tires, while Steven Kutkus is on a risky move on Domantas Kniva. A little bit of bumping in the Lacombe corners. But it looks like he got the position and he's up to P6 now. Dainius Butila sitting tied behind Domantas Kniva, and I think he's really interested in what's happening in front of him because he wants that position for himself also. Tunila 2.1 seconds gap.
Tunila leads the race.
Warning.
This is Kutkus moving around a lot
bumping car
at Puon. Interesting that there's that much movement while he gets on the power. We'll see if Simonas Urbanas can find a bit of time to actually start catching up. These two have been in quite a few battles, especially in the GT3 Team Championship when they've both been out on track. We've seen them battle and battle and battle almost every single time. But now it is advantage to Nila for the time being. But it will obviously also depend on tire wear. It will depend on driver confidence levels. This is Dave Spartronics in the Ferrari.
He's running a little bit wide. Dainius Butila also had a little slight running down. Let me not confuse the corner names. I think that was Blanchimont. So Dainius Butila lost a little bit of traction running down Blanchimont. Dave Spartronics understeered into that corner. So it's really hot. The drivers are pushing to the maximum. They want to finish as high as possible. This is the penultimate round of the championship. One man is currently sitting in his house and he wishes to be in this race also, but he cannot do that. So best wishes from the man Edvinas Žadeikis. He wishes best luck for his teammate in this race. Cheers for Tauras Tunila. The Dream to Drive guys are hot in the seats. So not only driving but also cheering for your teammates. Tauras Tunila 2.1 seconds gap. Urbanas still holding on the tail. Well, kind of the gap stays the same for these two ongoing laps. So maybe Simonas Urbanas is just warming up his tires and waiting patiently for the race to settle down. Maybe he'll take some action a little bit further into the distance.
Catching up at this lap, Dainius Butila in 8th. Can he make a move on Domantas Kniva, who's created a bit of a train behind him? He's got 3 cars running, and they all look to be quite close.
Plus 5 seconds minus
they
1
can
safety
make
rating.
any moves
Car number
here.
15. Reason, causing incident.
Maybe a bit difficult to make a move on a wet spa track, you don't have that many opportunities. You kind of have to wait for your opponent to make a mistake, or you have to be really confident and fast that you can overtake. Big slide by Daniel Butville on the exit there, but continues to run on. Interesting that that slide came about. Obviously, these cars have both traction control and ABS, so maybe running a bit more aggressive on the traction control, and that leads to the car maybe being a bit off balance sometimes. Wide by Dominus Nima, very, very wide through Blanchimont. I wonder if they're getting penalties for that, or at least warnings for track limits.
Car number 12. Reason, causing incident.
Yeah, a lot of penalties being handed out. Well, most of them are warnings. One car received a 5-second penalty for causing multiple incidents. That's Fernando Di Lillo. He's currently 18th with the Porsche. So he was a little bit more naughtier than the other drivers at the start of this race. So that's why he has a 5 seconds penalty. That's Steven Askatkos. Wow, doing a nice job on Mantas Samulonis. It looks like Mantas Samulonis just made a small mistake running up the Rouge and Rodion corners, and that's Steven Askatkos on the move into the Lacombe section. On the outside, usually you can hold on to the outside line when it's dry. It's not that easy to do that during a rainy race. So he decides to back out of it and stays right on the tail of Mantas Samulonis. But while these two drivers keep battling each other, Domantas Kniva found himself right on the tail of Steven Askatkos. It looks like Mantas Samulonis just made a small mistake, lost the rhythm, and now he's just trying to hold on to that position for as good as he can. Steven Askatkos all over the back, so Mantas Samulonis is forced to go defensive, takes a slightly tighter line into the Pohun section, while Miguel Silverio is having an accident somewhere on the racetrack, and I think there's more cars up. Yeah, that's the mentioned Miguel Silverio. He's pointing at the wrong direction of the circuit while we get back to the hot action on the racetrack, where Mantas Samulonis holds up Steven Askatkos and all the other drivers, including Butvila and Sparktronics. Actually, Kniva and Butvila. Sparktronics is a little bit further behind, so he's willing to try and chase these drivers down. Pavlas Gutauskas goes up to P10, overtaking Audrius Klokkinas. So you have to be really concentrated in these conditions. A tiniest mistake can cost you a fortune. That's why we see some position changes down the road. Mantas Samulonis always tries to be defensive into every corner. That slows not only him down, but all the drivers behind. Look at Sparktronics. He's already on the tail of Dainus Butvil, and this is a nice big train of GT3 cars on the soaked Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Having a look into the La Source corner, and Sparktronics also made some racing action recently. Did he outbrake himself? Not sure. We don't have a replay of that, but they changed positions for a short time, and it's back to how it was before that swap.
Daniel, by the way, extended that gap to 3.2. Back down to 2.9, but he's running just a little bit quicker. And last time round, about 4/10 was the difference between the front two. So Toros Daniel feeling a bit more comfortable in the wet weather. Obviously got a lot of practice for running in the wet here in the 12-hour event a few months ago. I think Simonas Rubanas was there as well, wasn't
it? That's a good question. You caught me by surprise. But I think he was there. He's always there. Didn't he go with Jan Nimtz?
I'll have a look at the stats and I'll tell you the exact answer.
Yeah. Dainus Butvila managed to overtake Domantas Kniva, so there's a new driver behind Steven Askatkos, who is really struggling to go around Manta Samulonis, who is also struggling to hold on to the circuit. He's doing the best he can to stay in front of the drivers, while Kristalitis is running lonely in P4. Look at Steven Katkus, he just made a mistake, slid a little bit wide. Now Dave Spartronics right on the tail of Domantas Kniva. He wants to get a little bit closer to that battle in front, so anyone who avoids mistakes performs a little bit better in this train and, well, holds the position and keeps the chances alive to finish slightly higher. That's not how we make an overtake into the bus stop chicane, down from too far from behind, trying to take that inside line. Usually ends up in a crash, so better to avoid moves like these. We have live race control working this evening. You've heard our voice of the lady announcing the penalties. That's Stevenas Katkos and Manta Samulonis, still the same way they were 3 laps ago. So Samulonis 5th and Katkos 6th. Up the Rodeon corner onto the Camel Straight. Steven Katkos right on the tail of Manta Samulonis. This time he's a little bit closer. He's forced to take that outside line again. Clever driving by Manta Samulonis. Well, he knows his defensive lines and he knows what he needs to do. He just needs to stay on the racetrack and not outbrake himself. Steven Katkos knows that he has a little bit more grip. Beautiful battle side by side into Bruxelles corner. A little bit of touching and rubbing. Dainus Butvila right on the tail. Manta Samulonis is still ahead of all of the drivers, chasing them down. Dainus Butvila wants a little piece of this cake for himself, but look what defensive driving gives Manta Samulonis on this stage of the race.
Oh, big touch. Now that's a big rub. That's not door banging. That's already wheel banging even harder. To the inside goes Steven Katkos, and now he's finally gonna get the
man,
there's Manta Samulonis off the road.
And into the barriers goes Dainus Butvila. I'm pretty sure it was a racing incident. All happened with a slight touch.
Manta Samulonis just went on the wet curb there. That's why he spun off. There wasn't even contact between them. Okay, we're gonna get a replay.
Hopefully we will get it. I froze there for 1 second.
Yep.
I was hoping that the computer will not die on us, but thankfully that didn't happen. And this is the hot replay of what happened there. So side by side, a little bit of rubbing, a little bit more rubbing between the drivers.
Penalty.
And we just lost. No, but I'll have a look in a second.
Rubbing.
By the way, Simonas Urbanas was part of the winning team for the 12-hour race.
Yep.
They won against Toros Villa and his Dream to Drive squad. So we remembered the ones who finished second, but we didn't remember who won. So it's not great from our side, but sure.
Oh man, Manta Samulonis is down to P13, Dainus Butvila down to P19. Car number 9 received a warning. That's Stevenas Katkos, so he was decided to be the one to blame for...
No, but actually for the incident, I think that's more for the door banging.
Yep, it was for the door banging.
Yep, because for the incident, I've just had a look and Manta Samulonis just went on the wet curb. And went off track and spun off.
Yeah, exactly. That was only a warning for Stevenas Katkos to be slightly more gentle for your rivals. Don't do that rubbing, that harsh rubbing with the doors, otherwise you'll be penalized. And remember, you get 3 warnings. That's your drive-through penalty, which can change the course of this race dramatically. We have a very long pit lane in Spa-Francorchamps, so you don't want to receive any unneeded visit to the pit lane, even if it's a drive-through, because this is a 1-hour race, and if you lose 70 seconds in the pit lane, that's basically your race done. So he will have to be a little bit more careful to not get any more warnings. Trying to look at the table of the race stewards of this evening. A lot of yellow columns I see in front of me.
Simonas Rubanas, by the way, stabilized that gap at the front. It was 2.9 last time the front two crossed the line. He gained about 4/10 last time round, so maybe, just maybe, the tires coming back to Simonas Urbanas' advantage. Crossing the line again are the front two. Now it's Toras Tunila going just a little bit quicker. So really trading lap times and trading that gap. That gap last time across the line was 3.1 seconds at the front of the field. The next gap behind is 10.9 to the leader, so 7.7 difference between Mickiewicz in third and Urbanas in second. So the front two are pretty clear of everyone, and they can run their own race. About, you can't really pit next lap, so about 2 laps to go until the pit window opens to the inside. Goes getting the Skripslitis on Matas Mickiewicz. He stays there. Oh, big slide over the curb, but still to the inside was Skripslitis, and now I think he's gonna try it one more time. Nope, just shows his nose, trying to scare Matas Mickiewicz into making a mistake, but not gonna happen this time.
So lap 7 for both of the drivers. It was 1.7 seconds advantage for Gediminas Krištolaitis. I think Matas Mickiewicz had problems in second sector, so you have to be careful to not receive penalties from the system itself. If you get 3 cuts and gain advantage, like Gediminas Krištolaitis is currently running off the circuit, that seemed to me as an advantage of the racetrack. You will receive a drive-through penalty from the system, not the race control, for cutting the track. So you have to be careful.
Penalty. Warning. Car number 6. Reason. Contact with 5.
Car number 6 receiving a warning. That's Domantas Kniva. He's currently 6th. For a contact with car number 5, which is our next victim, Dainus Butvela. He's down in P18 after that incident. So his race is basically done. He needs to sit tight and hope for better luck. Look how much later on the brakes is Gediminas Krištolaitis. Both drivers using the same manufacturer for the race of this evening. So 2 McLarens, no advantage there. So it's all for the driver and maybe the setup. You can tune your car to your likings, and maybe some of the drivers made a better job for this soaking wet race, and we'll still see that it's raining after 20 minutes of the race has been completed. So it's difficult to judge how the race will pan out a little bit further into the distance.
I think it would be difficult for the track to dry out. Maybe right before the end. That's what we'd hope for. By the way, Toras Tunila lost about 0.6 of a second last time round.
And actually the gap is now down to 2.1 seconds.
So maybe struggling a bit with the tires. Clearly, it's not raining as hard as it was previously. So the track is kind of drying up. You can see it visually that the track, especially the line, is getting just a little bit drier. We'll see what happens there. This is Tunila versus Urbanas, 1.9 seconds at the front.
Yep, and actually Toras Tunila is 7/10 of his pace on this current lap, while Simonas Urbanas is 3/10 up his pace on this current lap. So Simonas Urbanas finding more pace, while Toras Tunila keeps losing it. So maybe that's why we have seen Simonas Urbanas being a little bit slower at the start of this race. And Toras Tunila didn't think much of his tires. Maybe that's a little bit of a driver error. We will find that out as the race will continue. I don't think it would be clever to enter the pit lane a little bit too early because the pit window is already open and the drivers are open to make their strategic decisions. But I think it's a little bit more wise to stay out for as long as it is allowed. Crossing the line, 2 minutes 26.2 versus 2 minutes 25.4. So Simonas Urbanas definitely flying around the circuit. He just set his personal fastest lap time. The fastest lap time of the race so far is 2 minutes 25.1 set by our race leader. But he's currently in a little bit of struggle. We will find it out if it was a driver mistake on the previous lap or is it the tires already giving up on Toros Tunila for...
Would be pretty strange because it's not like we've had dry running with the wet tire. I mean, the track wasn't that dry in the beginning of the session. Still isn't dry. There's still quite a bit of spray coming off the cars, so you wouldn't see the tire overheat too much.
That shouldn't be the case, and it looks like the gap currently stabilized, so maybe it was just a driver error. And it's really easy to do a mistake when you're in the lead and being chased down by the current championship leader. Simonas Urbanas dominated the first or even I think the first 2 races he was dominant. The third round has seen his teammate drive the car. He got back for the 4th round and it was a nightmare. But anyways, when you have Simonas Urbanas on your tail, it's definitely easy to make mistakes. And there's another mistake from Toros Tunila. He's 8/10 down of his personal lap time. That's Mary Balazs. He just had a run of the circuit. And yep, that all happened by himself.
Oh, and into the wall. I was hoping to see him recover the car, but doesn't happen. And into the wall. Wow, getting much closer.
And he just set the fastest 2nd sector on the previous lap time.
And look at that, where the big difference was between Tunila and Urbanas was sector 1.
Huge difference.
0.7 of a second, and the rest of the lap is comparable. Let's see what happens this time.
Yep, Toros Tunila made a mistake on the 2nd sector. That's why we don't see any time down in.
But now they're almost together. 0.8 of a second is the difference between these two, and we'll see. I'm sure we'll see a battle between them. Could also be a strategic battle, maybe going into the pits earlier, but nobody really wants to do it. In case they see the track drying up, they might make a different decision here.
But that's tight though. It looks like Sparktronics just lost the position to Domantas Kniva. I'm not sure if that happened on the racetrack. It looks like so. He didn't make a mistake, so it looks like Domantas Kniva just made a successful race pass before the La Source corner. It happened, maybe into the bus stop chicane. Sparktronics right on the tail of Kniva, but I think we are at the stage where the cars change the balance for the drivers, and the ones who were struggling at the beginning, maybe they are starting to find a little bit more grip around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. That's why we see Toros Tunila.
Could be tire pressure.
Yep, that's definitely not tire wear because it's a little bit too early and it's still quite wet on the circuit. But tire pressure, maybe that's the key why some of the drivers had a little bit more grip at the start and a little bit less grip 25 minutes into the race. What about Simonas Urbanas? Will he be aggressive, or he'll just sit tight and wait for Toros Tunila to make a mistake? These two are having a blast of their lifetime. Sparktronics back ahead in front of Domantas Kniva.
I think Simonas Urbanas might think about a strategic pit. Maybe try and undercut Toros Tunila. Because I think making a move, Toros Tunila is not going to let him go easy, right? They've got a big gap behind. He's going to make Simonas Urbanas work for this. If Simonas Urbanas can undercut Toros Tunila, I think that might be a bit easier for him if he wants an easier type of win here today.
On the brakes, Simonas Urbanas won 3/10 of that gap, only braking later into the source corner, and he managed to make it stick around the apex. So the gap is down to 0.5, it's up to 0.8 again, and I don't think that Simonas Urbanas will try and make something silly. He's currently ahead of Gediminas Krikštolaitis, and that's more than he needs, while Domantas Knyva is the first driver to take that pit stop into the pit lane for a strategic stop.
I think Simonas Urbanas is just more confident on the brakes in the Nissan. So you can see again, big gain, and the big gain comes when Simonas Urbanas is on the anchors hard, in the hard braking zones. That's where he gains his time. And getting closer and closer, but at the moment not close enough. So having the advantage on the brakes is quite good, because you can make those nice moves into turns, because you can just try and outbrake your opponent.
And you definitely distract your opponent, especially when Toros Tunila has seen how much later on the brakes Simonas Urbanas is. He must be thinking down while running down the straights about the braking points, and knowing that Simonas Urbanas can brake as much late as he wants to. That might force Toros Tunila into a little mistake. So he needs to be concentrated and focused on the braking points of his own, but also having a look into the rear view mirrors. Both of the lap times of these two drivers on the previous lap was almost identical. Urbanas was only 1/10 faster than Toros Tunila. Oh, Toros Tunila into the pit lane. There's your strategic thinking. Yep, he doesn't want to have that late braker on his tail running down the straights into the braking zone, so maybe this is a wise decision. Gediminas Krikštolaitis 2.4 seconds behind Mickevičius. I think he just made a mistake, and he's pointing straight into the pit lane, while Domantas Knyva is back on the racetrack. So Simonas Urbanas stays alone on the racetrack. He needs to push now as hard as he can. Because the strategic is different between the two leaders. So there's nothing more that Simonas Urbanas can do now. He needs to perform and do it in fashion. He's currently 3/10 down of his...
Very strange. For Toros to pull the trigger first, that's normally what the car behind does, but I'm sure Simonas Urbanas was thinking about making a pit stop early. Now he's kind of in this weird no man's land where does he continue going and
30 minutes left.
Maybe he'll be quicker?
Yep, 30 minutes of the race on the clock, so this is the midpoint of the race, and a lot of drivers took the decision to go into the pit lane. Maybe Toros Tunila struggled on the tires, and he understood that he needs to change something. Maybe that's the aggressive setup that he set his car for this race. That's why he was forced to go into the pit lane.
It could also be to do with tire pressures. Maybe he felt that he wasn't spot on when choosing the tire pressures for the start of the race. Because it felt like Simonas Urbanas towards the end of the stint really started to gain. So maybe he had the tires in a pressure zone where he would have an incredible start, an incredible first 15 minutes or so, and then the tire would start fading away. Now he needs to kind of rebalance that. He's obviously now got hot brakes, he's got a hot exhaust, he's got a hot engine, all of which can heat up. The tires, Simonas Urbanas stays out, so this will be very clearly Oh, Andres Klopkenas almost into a barrier, but just off the road. This time, Toros Danila has got free space ahead of them. 17.6 seconds is the gap to the next car ahead, so I think he can be pretty confident for the time being.
Yep, he has new tires. That's a mandatory thing in this championship. You have to change your tires while you're standing in the pit lane, so definitely a little bit of advantage against Simonas Urbanas. He needs to warm the tires up, and he should be traveling pretty fast. If he will make no mistakes, he should stay in front of Simonas Urbanas after they complete the pit
Penalty,
stops.
plus 5 seconds minus 1 safety rating. Car number 4.
That's Pavlas
Reason, bumping car
Gutauskas,
12.
who is up into P2. Klopkenas into the pit lane, so Simonas Urbanas stayed out. Gutauskas, yep, he's up to P2, but he just received that penalty for incidents on racetrack. So bad news for the driver who stayed out on the racetrack and took P2 of the race at this moment. Simonas Urbanas, will he get into the pit lane at the end of this lap, or will he be the driver to wait it out for as long as he needs, sliding around in the mid corner? That's not helping you to go faster, though he's pushing. He's only 2/10 of his fastest lap time so far. His last lap was 2 minutes 25.9. We are still in the weight of the lap times of Toros Tunila, who just got back on the circuit after his pit lane. He's a little bit mixed in between the drivers that are currently making a pit stop.
But he's found himself a very nice spot on the track. He's still got about 14 seconds to the car ahead, so he's got time to continue on pushing, and before the mandatory pit window runs out, and Simonas Urbanas down onto pit road. So we'll see where he emerges, right? This is where Matas Mickiewicz has come out, 16.3 behind Toros Danila, ahead of Gediminas Krikštaitis by 1 point. Be less once he exits.
So Gediminas Krikštaitis went for the pit lane earlier as Matas Mickiewicz did. I think the difference was 1 lap, but Matas Mickiewicz managed to stay ahead of Gediminas Krikštaitis with that later pit stop. Now he has an advantage of tires. Not sure how much that matters, because there's only a difference of 1 lap.
Maybe not so much tires, more about once you stop, you kind of have a free road ahead of you, so you can push on a bit harder. We'll see where the most interesting one is Simonas Urbanas and Toros Danila. Who was quicker in that sort of stage, and who's actually quicker through the pits as well.
Yep, so 75.2 down the pit lane, 37.3 stationary time for Toros Danila. Simonas Urbanas still in the pit lane, and he'll be there for the next roughly 30 seconds. Pavlas Gutauskas taking that lead. He'll be one of the late stoppers in this race. Javier Legid and Ainis Kamaivičius just went into the pit lane, so that leaves Justinas Gedzevičius out on the racetrack to yet make a pit stop. But Toros Danila is currently running around the La Source corner, while Simonas Urbanas is on the exit already. That's gonna be tight, but I think Simonas Urbanas will stay ahead of Toros Danila. What's the difference? So 5 seconds shorter standing in the pits. So Toros Danila stood for 37.3 seconds, while Simonas Urbanas was stationary for 32.3. Toros Danila, oh, I thought he just had a accident, because
more time.
Yeah, he just lost 2 seconds. What happened with Toros Danila? I think he just involved a slide around.
Oh, I think maybe he was frustrated. He lost a lot of time.
So he lost 5 seconds in the pit lane. Where did that difference come from? It's already 8 seconds gap between Simonas Urbonas and Tauras Tunila. And I think it's impossible for Tauras to chase down Simonas. Unless something happens. But that's a huge gap between these two drivers. Wow.
I mean, he'd need a mega stint, a mega 20 minutes to gain back that much time.
And that's again the shortest pit stop by Simonas Urbonas from all the field. Tauras was stationary for 37 seconds, Matas Mickevičius 35.7, Gediminas Krištolaitis 34.9. No one was standing shorter than 33 seconds. Stevenas Katkus 33.9. Well, they all have almost identical time in
Penalty. Drive through car number 6. Reason. Track limits.
Car number 6 received a drive-through penalty for track limits, and that's your driver Domantas Knyva. He's currently 9th. He'll lose a lot of places with that drive-through. So Simonas Urbonas on the tail of Justinas Gedzevičius. This is a battle for position on the racetrack. Justinas Gedzevičius outbraking himself and going straight into the pit lane. Not sure what he was thinking about when he saw Simonas Urbonas in his rearview mirrors. He knew that he needs to go into the pit lane. Still managed to make that mistake. Povilas Gutauskas staying out on the racetrack. That's a little bit risky. You cannot...
I think he'd make it, just about.
He should make it. Yep, he should make it. But that's gonna be tight. But that's good calculations by the driver. Not sure if that's pretty needed to risk that much in races like these, to stay out for as long as you can. But still, well, he managed to do that. That's no problem. He'll head into the pit lane by the end of this lap. Hopefully he will be able to avoid mistakes. Tauras Tunila, tires warmed up already. His fastest lap time of this stint is 2 minutes 25.5. That's 2/10 slower than the fastest lap time of Simonas Urbonas in this race so far. But he's pushing. He's 3/10 up of his fastest lap time of this stint. So he's trying to gain on Simonas with those warmer tires. But I don't see how Tauras Tunila would get the chance to chase down Simonas.
I mean, he has to push. There's nothing else that he can do but push and do the best lap time he possibly can. He's got no other choice because he's not gonna... He can't gain back that time by driving, let's say, smart, like you would in a regular endurance race. If this was an endurance race, you could say, okay, I'll drive smart for a while and gain back that time throughout the stint. This is not gonna happen. Povilas Gutauskas, by the way, in, so makes it just in time with 20 seconds to spare.
Yep, good calculations by the driver. We will see where he'll end up, at what position after he'll complete that pit stop. Matas Mickevičius is performing pretty nicely. Gediminas Krištolaitis, he's losing time. He's currently 5th, but virtually 4th. Simonas Urbonas is up to 2nd, virtually 1st. So that's all that Simonas Urbonas needs in this championship. He had 13 points advantage while heading into the race, and he should extend that lead if he'll manage to finish in the position that he's currently at. There's a little bit of a battle happening for P12. Justin Asel is currently 12th. Maxim Jordi and Miguel Silverio are trying to chase down that McLaren. So 2 McLarens versus 1 Ferrari.
We saw Miguel facing the wrong direction at the beginning of the Daniels Butvilla yellows for him.
I think he's off the racetrack. Yep, I couldn't catch him. He's out of the race. We'll get a glimpse of what happened. He was on his own. Yep.
Maybe technical issue?
Yeah, something
like
definitely happened. He had to quit it. Oh, that's Javier Legid facing the wrong direction with a damaged car number 3. And that's a loss on your own.
Oh, you just touched that white line and the curb on the exit. It's so slippery there. Standard Spa crash.
Oh!
This is Silverio, somebody off the road, and Silverio benefits from that because everybody else has to lift off because they've cut the course, and Silverio gains 2 places in 1 corner with mistakes from everyone around them. Toros Nila 9.1 behind. That's not quick enough.
But look at the lap times. Look at the previous lap times of these 2 drivers. So Toros Tunila just set the fastest lap time of the race, but look at the gap between those fastest lap time of these 2 drivers. Not sure where Toros Tunila lost to Simonas Surmanos, but I think it happened on this lap, because the previous lap time belonged to Toros Tunila, and the gap was roughly 8.3 seconds. But I think that's it in the battle for the win of this race. Toros Tunila can push as hard as he wants to, but Simonas Surmanos responds with the next fastest lap time of this race, and I'm not sure if Toros Tunila will get the chance to go even faster, and that's actually really slow. 2 minutes 26.6. That's where he lost all that time, and that happened in the 2nd sector again. So Toros Tunila struggling in S2 of this racetrack. This is not the first time we see Toros Tunila making mistakes, and he's actually caught up with the traffic. That breaks your perfect aerodynamical weather a little bit, especially up into the Rouge and Radion corners.
You know, I'm still very much surprised at how much time Simonas Surmanos managed to gain in the pits.
Well,
I couldn't believe it.
That's 5 seconds, but he gained even more when he stayed out on the track for a little bit longer, because...
Actually, he wouldn't have gained that much because Toros Tunila lost the car.
Yeah.
In Eau Rouge, and he gave up all the advantage that he would have had all the way to the braking zone for that chicane. Oh, somebody off in the background.
That's Mary Thomas. No, is it? I think it was Mary Thomas. Yep. And he just lost it on his own. Oh yeah, those slippery curbs just caught the driver by surprise.
Yeah, if you what I was saying is that when Toros Tunila lost the car, he kind of lost the advantage he would have had all the way down the Camel Straight, and that's where he would have gained back that time, and it would have been equal. So disappointing for him. That wouldn't have really changed anything, because the gap is continuing to increase for the lead. So it looks like Simonas Surmanos maybe just a bit more comfortable now at the front of the pack.
Yep, Gediminas Krištolaitis lost 3 seconds in the battle for P3 against Matas Mickevičius. The gap is up to 5 seconds, so it looks like the drivers are currently getting comfortable with the positions that they're running at. With 15 minutes of the race to go, Simonas Surmanos just set another fastest lap time of the race, 24.9, so he was 9/10 faster than Toros Tunila. And that's your answer for all the drivers, what they are aiming at in this remaining race, in these remaining 15 minutes. Knima running a little bit wide. I don't think that Toros Tunila is currently on the mission to chase down Simonas Surmanos when he sees the lap times of his rival. Well, that's a twist. That's why we've seen Simonas Surmanos being patient at the beginning of the race. He was there running calmly, didn't go for any moves, managed to put in the lap time of the qualifying session right at the end. It was strategic, it was wise. He adjusted the setup of the car. It was not enough for P1, but he missed only 1/10 at that lap, and I think from that moment he knew what his race aim is for this evening. He caught out Toros Tunila definitely by surprise. You could see Toros Tonila struggle in the Arouche and Radion sections. As soon as he's seen the gap of Simonas Turbonas, he might have been shouting in his rig to his engineers to explain what happened there. Something we hear quite a lot in Formula One races, when the drivers don't understand how they lose to their rivals during a pit stop. And Toros Tonila will definitely need to have a good look at what happened in the pit lane. Why did he lose that much of time?
Well, if you remember last time Toros Tonila raced at Spa, they did pretty much the whole race. The whole 12-hour, single set of tires for a whole 12-hour. Well, single set of slicks, because I think they kept switching wets.
Because it happens automatically.
Yep. And the race was slicks, wets the whole time, and they just kept going on a single set of slicks.
Yeah.
So if it's the same pit crew that they've brought to Spa once again, and now they've been slow on the pit stop, I'm not sure they'll keep their job.
Toros will be furious on his team, but there's nothing he can do right now on the circuit. And well, looking at the gaps, he's trying, but that's not enough, because Simonas Turbonas is just performing a little bit better. Alex Leaf running a little bit wide after he managed to overtake Ian Brewery. This is the battle for P9, and it looks like the rain is actually... Is it increasing, or is just the spray from the rival?
It just looks like Jan Brewery has forgot how to turn on wipers.
Does he use his wipers?
If it works for him. Oh, somebody off the road. Miguel Silverio once again off the road. At the same place. Oh, does he touch the barrier? Nope.
Nope.
Doesn't touch the barrier, but doesn't make any sudden moves and goes in. Waits to rejoin the track to not make any mistake there. Simonas Turbonas continues to lead in the Nissan. If he does win, this would be first win for a Nissan this season, because in the other rounds where he's won, he ran the Porsche. Toros Tonila also, first time he's running in that Aston Martin, but that's, I'm sure, because he had a setup for the car from the 12 hours.
Yep, both of the drivers still pushing and running almost identical lap times on the previous run, and on this one, Toros Tonila finding the base. He's slightly faster than Simonas Turbonas, though he just lost a little bit of time. He was 3/10 faster than his personal fastest lap time, and now he's equal with that. And Simonas Turbonas, if he'll make no mistakes, he should set another fastest lap time of this race as soon as he crosses the line. So Toros Tonila lost a little bit in the third sector of this lap, and the gap just went up to 10.7 seconds. There you go, the fastest lap time of the race, 2 minutes 24.8. Toros Tonila should set a 2 minutes 25.1 roughly as he crosses the line. That is actually 2 minutes 25.2, so there's another 4/10 lost for Toros Tonila. And I think that's it in the battle for P1, unless something happens.
Just both of them have to bring it home. There's no rush for them.
Domantas Kniva, after that penalty, he tries to recover, runs 12th. Both of the drivers running a little bit wide into Bruxelles corner. With the ladder, Justinas running a little bit too wide. You can see the comparison of the lap times, 2 minutes 24.8 versus 2 minutes 29.9 for Justinas. That's a huge difference per one lap time.
It's where driver skill plays an even bigger factor, and driver experience plays an even bigger factor. Dave, a bit slow. Maybe he was just a bit off track.
Is he trying to weave off the tires? Did he just made a mistake? I don't see any accident on the table for this driver, so not sure what happened there. Maybe just having a little bit fun on that wet track.
Maybe trying to get front tire temps back in.
Yeah.
Could be that he just doesn't have any front end tire temp. Mantas Samudonis on your screens, 16th. At the moment, remember we saw him fighting up at the front of the field at one point, but had that spin and went down to 16th, very wide from Silverio up in front. But
also from Justinas Getsavicius, it looks like the drivers are not avoiding to run wide.
Extremely wide. He's completely off track there on the left-hand side. Miguel Silverio will definitely pass him.
Will
or
he?
Maybe not.
It's gonna be a battle that...
I think he needs to let him through. I don't think he's got any... Okay.
Well, he's not letting him through, so maybe he completed his needed slowdown for that cutting. And, well, he should be able to see on his screen if he's in a risk to get a penalty. Mantas Samulon is running a little bit wide. What's happening with Toros Tunila?
I think Mantas Samulon has just hit the wall.
Oh, yeah. That's your camera. That's your cameraman doing silly hops around the racetrack.
Look at that. Touches that AstroTurf. Shaves the wall. Doesn't hit the wall. But he touched the AstroTurf on the exit of Eau Rouge. And that thing is deadly. If you've still got any load on the right-hand side of the car, and you touch that AstroTurf, you're not in for a great time. But I guess it made the best of the worst situation by just grazing that wall and not actually hitting it hard. Because if he did hit it hard, I think that would be race over right there. But another chance to catch up. Mantas Samulon is clearly going much quicker than the drivers ahead of him. He was obviously running up at the sharp end of the field. He was running almost in the top 5, I'd call it. But yeah, unfortunately,
yep, he made a mistake actually on his own. He was racing fair and square. His rival received a warning for bumping and rubbing, but well, it all went really wrong for Mantas Samulonis in one of the corners. And there's nothing you can do. This is a wet race. If you risk too much, you know that you can lose a little bit more than you risked for. This is a battle for P8, DeLillo against Alex Leaf, and I believe Alex Leaf is a little bit faster than DeLillo, so that's gonna be a tight battle in a couple of corners. Gap is down to 0.8 seconds. And
Alex Leaf, by the way, he's been he's been very calm this race and just collecting positions. He's been kind of invisible. Because you remember you said on the grid, you said, Alex Leaf quite far down. And he's just been gaining spots and we haven't even noticed it. Because he's done it so quietly. He's done it through the pits, he's done it through others crashing out, and sometimes that's all you need in a wet race. But this time he's going to have to finally make a move on DeLillo if he wants that 8th position. 5 minutes to go, so...
left of the race.
Yep. And that should be the last move for Alex Leaf if he manages to complete it. So the highest position that he can finish in this race is 8th, unless something happens further ahead. But both of the drivers are 19 seconds behind Povilas Gutauskas, the driver who stayed out on the racetrack for the longest of all of them. While we were talking and looking at Alex Leaf, Simonas Urbanas just set yet another fastest lap time of this race, 2 minutes 24.4. That's whole second faster than the previous lap time of Toros Tunila, which was not slow at all, 2:25.4. But it looks like Simonas Urbanas just on another league and being even faster than all the other drivers on the grid, with Toros Tunila being 2 seconds faster than Matas Mickiewicz.
Really trying tough.
So maybe it's up the driver who feels that a little bit better than the others. And Toros Tonilo, well, he always nails the first part of the track. He's always faster on the clock than his personal fastest lap time, but somehow he loses it in the third sector, or maybe in the second one, but he always starts with a green delta, so I'm not sure why he's not performing that to the finish. But that's of course not, that wouldn't change anything, even if Toros Tonilo would go faster and set the fastest lap times for himself. Simonas Urbanos still a little bit faster in these conditions. This is Miguel Silverio and Justinas L again. Both of them
Silverio
still
in front. So Silverio has gotten past both Gidzavichus and L.
Oh yeah.
Sabulonis in 16th. Maybe after that rub into the pits.
Yep. Maybe his car is a little bit too...
Maybe also drive-through? Could it be a drive-through?
Well, we didn't receive info about a drive-through, but that might be a drive-through, because I'm not sure why would you want to go into the pit lane with 3 minutes on the clock.
And the only option would be you pit and you put slicks on, but the track's not ready for slicks.
Yeah, look at how long the pit lane is. 2 minutes 25.1, the previous lap time of Toros Tonilo. He was still slower than Simonas Urbanas. I've lost myself, actually, with what I wanted to do, and we've missed the battle on the racetrack yet again. Alex Leaf in front of Di Lillo finally got himself through.
Much quicker, running much quicker, because he's gained a lot of time already. 1.3 seconds. That's quite a bit of time to gain.
Well, he was he was almost 2 seconds per lap faster than Di Lillo, so it was only a matter of time. When will Alex Leaf gain that spot? This is P8. I don't see possibilities for Alex Leaf finishing a little bit higher.
It's 18 seconds. You can go as fast as you want, but...
Oh, race leader just... I think he just made a mistake. Maybe he ran a little bit wide, because his current lap time is invalid. So definitely a little bit of cutting the track. He's still there, and the gap is still 13 seconds. So nothing huge, nothing dramatic. It's just a proof that the drivers, even though they are 13 seconds in the lead, they still keep pushing and going on the limit. I remember we once had a discussion with Gustas Grimbergas of why the drivers don't need to relax too much, even if they have a big lead, because if you lose your rhythm, then you have a little bit more of a risk to make a mistake. So you kind of need to remain sharp and give it your best shot, even though you don't need to, but it's actually safer. Down into the bus stop chicane, 40 seconds to go. Will that be
one
the
more time.
That's 1 lap or 2 laps? Do we have plus
one
lap?
No.
That's the last lap.
1 lap. Okay. He's gonna start the last lap now. Yes.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, final lap for Simonas
Last
Urbanas.
lap has started for the leader.
And Toros Tonilo will come across the line soon as well to start his final lap. That gap is pretty comfortable there. This is Silverio versus Jordi versus Kniva up in front. I think Kniva's safe, but this will be Silverio versus Jordi. They'll have 2 laps actually.
Yep, they are just on the penultimate lap. Kniva running wide on the curbs. By the way, Samolones did make a drive-through because he wasn't stopped. It was just a drive-through, so maybe for those cuts of the track, we didn't receive any info from race control about penalties for Manta Samolones, so I think it's 4 drive-through, and wow, you don't do that on the penultimate lap time. Kniva kind of running a little bit lost, I would say. He made a mistake, and he did not expect Maxime Jordi to be on his right side.
Maybe some issue.
Maybe it was an issue because it seems strange.
I mean, extremely strange. Wow. Did he just kind of rejoin the track?
Yeah, he ran wide and then he tried to close the door, but Jordi was already on the inside, so They touched.
And he's still losing time, so I think there might be some issue because he was running up in front before.
So maybe he had a contact with the barriers, and that's what cost him.
Maxime Jordi looks like he's very much on the edge of grip as he comes through the turns. Looks like he's working a lot with that Ferrari. Maybe Miguel Silverio has still a chance. Wow, big gain on the exit there. And to the final braking zone into the bus stop chicane. Jordi defends the inside. Silverio still there. Kniva still there as well. And they're going to start their final lap, but we can jump over to our race leader because he's going to take it across the line to take another win in the GT3 Team Championship and extend his lead at the top of the standings. Simonas Urbanas for Shaun Clarke Racing take the win. And just as we had a few months ago, Shaun Clarke Racing wins, Dream to Drive second. Doros Nila finishes second after starting on pole. He'll have questions to his mechanics for sure.
Stinacel just
Kaniva ahead of Silverio now. Where is
Jordi down in P14, and there's a big crash.
Off the road. Big incident, but nobody touched the wall. Wow.
They're definitely hot-headed. Look at Domantas Kniva. I think he will decide to quit this one.
Yep.
I think he had a contact with Justinas L before. Yeah, so definitely a hot ending to the race. That's Gediminas Kristalaitis not being able to catch up with Matas Mickevičius, finishing 4th. Steven Askatkus, 5th. Dave Sparktronics still out on the racetrack. He should cross the line in P6, and Povilas Gutauskas should finish 7th, the driver who stayed out on the racetrack for the longest of the competition before taking
and led
the
a
stop.
few laps as well. He's got that stat. He's led a few laps of the race, and he's gonna finish in 7th position ahead of Alex Leaf, who's going to finish 8th. He's gained over 6 seconds over DeLillo. Wow. Big difference.
Well, he was always faster at this race, started way down the order, but...
Penalty, plus 5 seconds minus 1 safety rating. Car number, 10. Reason, contact with 6.
Oh man, Miguel Silverio had a contact, was it? I think 6 is Kniva, so Miguel Silverio at the end was the one to blame. So he will lose a little bit of time, but Kniva is out of the race, so nothing can bring the points for the young Lithuanian driver, who looked quite good at the beginning of this one, but then he kept losing positions and making mistakes, and that's, well, that was the race over for Domantas Kniva, the driver of the Dream to Drive team. Maybe it is a junior team. Miguel Silverio finishing 11th. Still, we have still cars on the racetrack.
Penalty, plus 5 seconds minus 1 safety rating. Car number, 10. Reason,
again.
contact with 19.
Oh, that's another penalty for Miguel Silverio with contact for another car. For a contact with another car, car number 19, that's Maxime Jordi. So we've seen the drivers running pretty tight, and I think hell got loose in that situation, and we've missed quite a lot of contacts from the drivers. You know what? I think that's a wrap-up of this one.
It was a very strategic race. That often happens when it's wet. Either we have total chaos and everybody crashes, or it's a pretty calm race, because it's not as easy to catch up, it's not as easy to overtake. So you've kind of got a more monotone race, but I'm sure the drivers would have something else to say. I think it's much more enjoyable for the drivers than for the fans to see races like this.
So these are the unofficial results of the 5th round of the GT3 Team Championship on the World Sim Series platform. Yet another dominant drive from Simonas Urbanas. Tauras Tonila started from pole. He lost a lot of time in the pit lane, then he made a mistake after he has seen Simonas Urbanas getting out of the pit lane with a huge advantage. Nice race from Matas Mickiewicz, as we haven't seen mistakes made by the driver, who made quite a lot of them 2 weeks ago. So he managed to get himself together and maybe be a little bit more prepared for the wet race. So he snapped the 3rd step on the podium. And he also managed to overtake the very fast driver Gediminas Krikštolaitis of the Beaver Grease Racing team, who was 2nd in the overall standings before he came to this race. I think he will still be in P2 after we will add the points of this one. Stevenas Katkos finishes 5th with the No Traction Racing. So this is your top 5 of the 5th round, which has already come to an end, and I really hope you have enjoyed this one, because we've had a lot of action, not as much as we had 2 weeks ago at the Kyalamis circuit, but it was definitely one of the more interesting races of the season so far. So with 1 to go, we head to the Mount Panorama circuit in 2 weeks' time. Oh man, the walls of Australia. What can we hope from the last race of the season? I think there's going to be plenty of action and maybe a little bit of more contacts with the barriers, which the drivers find to be a little bit closer to the circuit as they are on the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Hopefully with no rain, because that would emerge a lot of chaos on the racetrack. So I will be cheering for some dry weather. And I think it's going to be a little bit more of a on-track race action rather than action in the pit lane. Yeah, so I've pronounced that quite difficultly, but difficult. But it's actually the end of this race. And what do we have the coming week? That's gonna be the special events week on the World Sim Series platform, because the next Saturday we will have the 12 hours of the Nordschleife event between the GT3 cars and GT4, I believe.
Yep. And anyone who's not yet registered, you've still got time. Head on over to worldsimseries.com, register and participate in the Nürburgring 12-hour.
That's the Ring Freaks Nürburgring, because the famous team from the Nordschleife, the company that you can rent cars from and go around the Nordschleife circuit, have partnered yet again with the World Sim Series team, and they have quite some nice prizes to offer. Actually, the prize pool is 1,300 euros. Yep, you heard that correctly. If you are a hot-headed race fan, don't wait any longer. Go to the World Sim Series platform, search for Ring Freaks Nürburgring. You don't have to do a lot of searching, because that will come up right in front of you as soon as you log in. Only 6 days to go. 2nd of March, 12 GMT is the start of the race. You still have time to pre-qualify for that round, find your team, and don't miss that one out.
Yep. And that's a wrap for tonight. And we'll see you all in next Saturday, live on World Sim Series, as always. The Ring Freaks, 12 hours of the Nordschleife.
Have a good one, and see you then.